Evolutionary.org podcast coming your way, episode 484. Stevesmi and the Rickster, Ricky V. Rock. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Steve? What's up, guys? How's everybody doing out there?
All right. So we're going to talk about, on this one, we're going to talk about a rehash. We're going to do another rehash. And this one, we're going to go back in time and we're going to rehash an episode that we did previously, a couple episodes. And the one that I'm bringing back to the forefront is one about MK-677 Nutrobl, which was episode 344. And the reason I'm bringing that one back is because MK-677 is one that not a lot of people know about yet. And it's one of the best appetite stimulators I've ever used in my life, to the point of annoyance. And it's one of those things where if you're a person who doesn't have much of an appetite, you can use this stuff to your advantage for sure. So it's a really good one. We're going to talk about MK-677, talk about how to use it, talk about what it is, and all that good stuff. What you got, Rick?
Yeah, MK Nutrobl is a good one. I like the healing peptide episode we did about TB500. I think that's a really nice one to go along with the MK-677. So let's revisit episode 380. That's TB500. It's a great episode all about TB500, the healing peptide to heal bones, ligaments, tendons. Very good episode. And without further ado, here are the shows.
What's going on, everyone? Good evening. Evolutionary.org podcast coming your way. Our compound series continues. This is going to be number 344, guys, if you guys are tracking. Today we're going to do Nutrobl MK-677. This is Stevesmi, and Rick is on here to help me out. How's it going, man?
Hey, what's up, Steve? What's up, guys? How's everybody doing out there?
So, guys, Nutrobl MK-677, it's not a SARM right off the bat, but it is sold as a SARM. A lot of SARMs companies obviously sell it. It's very popular. I've used it several times. It's one of my personal favorites because it really does do, it's really an amazing compound for the things it does. So it's orally administered, and it's a growth hormone secretagogue. Is that how you pronounce that, Rick? Secretagogue?
Secretagogue.
Yeah, I have no fucking clue. Yeah. But it's reverse pharmacology.
Secretagogue basically means that it makes cells secrete other compounds, basically.
Exactly.
So that's all it means.
So chemically, it signals our pituitary glands to secrete growth hormones. And gosh, boy, does it really work. It's quite amazing. You'll actually notice it working pretty quickly. So it's very similar to using like a GHRP or a GHRH or IPA, which are peptides. But in this case, you simply take it orally and you can just dose it once a day or twice a day at the most. Unlike these peptides, which are a pain in the ass. You have to mix them, then you have to inject them a certain time, and you have to inject them sometimes several times a day. So it's so much more simpler, and that was one of the reasons that it became so popular in the fitness industry. So I'm going to bring in Rick really early on this. Rick, can you tell us a little bit about that and the history?
MK-677 has been around, I would say the last 7-8 years is when I started seeing it. As of June 2017, it is in the preclinical stage of development for human growth hormone deficiency. MK-677 is still being investigated as a new drug. It has not yet been approved for any sort of a human consumption. However, bodybuilders are still using it. And there really isn't much more information on it other than it's been around the last 6-7 years and is in preclinical trials as of about 3 years ago. Do you know what the company that's been developing it, Steve?
Originally, it was developed by reverse pharmacology, and then
That's pretty much it. I mean,
yeah. The reason they developed it, they wanted to kind of combat conditions, muscle wasting, obesity, osteoporosis. They wanted to help with elderly people and hip fractures, that sort of thing. So it's quite amazing, some of the things that it was designed for. And they wanted to do it safely. They wanted something that would be safe. So it's really fascinating.
When you're talking about MK-677, that's one of the newer SARMs. Those are the ones that have been available within the last 10 years. S4 has been around, about 13, 15 years almost, available to the public. MK-677, less than 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember using it for the first time maybe 5-6 years ago, I believe. And it's really an amazing one. So how does it work? So you get that pulse, that growth hormone pulse, 4 different ways that it does this. It increases the GHRH, which is growth hormone releasing hormone. It amplifies GHRH, which signals somotropes of the anterior pituitary gland. It reduces the somatostatin release, which that will turn off growth hormone release. And then it inhibits the somatostatin receptor signaling. So those 4 ways are how, when you take this stuff, you'll actually boost your growth hormone secretion. And that's how it works, those 4 ways. And they, the more you dose it, the more growth hormone gets spit out. So they've noticed in studies that doses starting at 5 milligrams a day will do the trick with this stuff. So I've used it, and I can definitely tell that it really, really was making a difference. And we'll get into some of the benefits. One of the ways I'll tell you right now, like taking it within the first 2 or 3 days, my hunger was insane on this stuff, to the point it was really, really annoying. Another benefit, fat loss. Really, really cool fat loss. Hard sleep. I needed less sleep on this stuff because when I would take it, I would sleep harder. So I wasn't tossing and turning as much as I usually do. I'm a big tosser and turner because I'm always in pain, from years of weight training and office jobs and stuff. So I'm always in fucking pain, so I'm tossing and turning. But this stuff, makes you sleep hard. And then the other thing, recovery. I noticed difference in recovery when I would take it. So, we see that. So, overall, the benefits, we can say, it helps you with your catabolic, from weight training or whatnot. But what we've seen is, it helps with prevent the nitrogen wasting. So you're able to basically push harder in the gym, recover faster. And we've seen this. They did a study on young men, and it showed that after a week at 25 milligrams a day, they had an increase in the concentration of IGF-1 and growth hormone. They had nitrogen wasting reversal, and they showed that their muscles were actually able to stay. So this stuff is amazing, Rick, for when you're off cycle or during PCT. This stuff, to add it in that situation for those who are worried about losing muscle from a cycle, is a tremendous benefit. So another thing, before I let you on, Rick, another thing that it showed was with fat loss. You had some of the studies showed that you had an increase in lean body mass, and it showed that happened 25 milligrams a day for 8 weeks. They had an increase in basal metabolic rate after just 2 weeks, an increase of serum levels of GH, IGF-1, and IGF binding protein 3. And they had an increase in lean body mass. So, and they thought they found that the increase in calorie deposition into the muscle and appetite decrease as opposed to reducing fat storage directly. So the mechanism of action is kind of interesting on that. So it's almost like you can actually eat more on it and still lose fat, which is pretty cool. So, overall, guys, sleep, your complexion, your energy goes up, nitrogen retention goes up, increase in strength, sense of well-being, all the nice things that come with growth hormone. And it's a hell of a lot cheaper than running growth hormone. And it's a hell of a lot easier to take than taking these GHRHs and GHRPs that you have to mix, inject, and hope you're not getting a powder of who knows what. So as long as you're getting legit Nutrobl, you're smooth sailing. Jump in, Rick.
Yeah, it's not a peptide. It actually is a growth hormone booster. Basically, it makes your body produce more growth hormone. I've tried it. I used it for a little while, and I abandoned the cycle. I didn't follow it through. After using it, I just got worried, and I didn't have any real science or real signs for this. I just decided it on my own. I got afraid that it might mess with the way my body produces GH naturally. And so I wanted to give it a few more years of other guys using it, hearing back some reports before I started messing with it, because it's already a lifestyle being a steroid user, and I already have to tweak with my endocrine system always. I've got to take testosterone boosters at times. There are times where I'll just have to take anti-estrogens, even if I haven't been juicing for a while. It is just a lifestyle. I didn't want to add to that so early on, maybe dealing with my pituitary gland as well. MK-677, it will raise your appetite the way Steve says. It might be attaching to ghrelin receptors, making you hungrier. It will increase the amount of human growth hormone your body makes, and does increase the amount of IGF-1 your body makes. All great things if you are a bodybuilder, if you're looking to get lean, if you're a strength athlete. Not so great if you have pre-existing cancer or you're prone to it. Probably not the best to be taking. Yeah, so I mean, I personally have decided to delay working or exploiting the growth hormone pathway. Your growth hormones attach to completely different receptors than your androgens do. Like, here's an example. For example, human growth hormone is human specific. The human growth hormone in our body won't work the same on a horse or on a monkey or whatever. Testosterone is the same testosterone. It will work the same on a horse or on a monkey than it does on us. Testosterone is about 275, 300 daltons in weight. Human growth hormone is over 22,000 daltons in weight. It's a way larger, more complex hormone than testosterone, and it affects a completely different pathway. It's a completely different way of messing with your system, and so I've stayed away from it until now. I think there's enough research and enough people that have used it now to where I can probably fit it in properly into one of my upcoming programs. But it definitely is something to know. All the benefits that Steve mentioned. Plus, I mean, it boosts growth hormone production is what it does. And instead, you're not adding in a peptide. You're actually promoting you're boosting your own making of it.
I did read a study that it did show a reduction in tumors in mice, and that was attributed to its effects on the immune system. So even if that's the case, and even if you're worried about cancer or tumors or something, there's evidence that it actually can reduce cancer and tumors as well. We have that. But again, like Rick was saying, it's very new. We haven't seen long-term effects, but people are getting cancer left and right every day from all kinds of things. I mean, from just the pollution in the environment, from the foods we eat, the water we drink, so it's hard to really know this. I think it's going to be hard to know, hey, Nutrobl specifically causes this type of effect. Go ahead.
It's a strong compound. The effects on sleep and also the effects on hunger, very profound. It's a very strong compound. You know it's working from the first time you start taking.
Yeah, and it's we're going to talk about that the side effects. That can be a negative side effect in both cases. We'll get into that shortly, but first I wanted to kind of talk about the IGF. Some of the studies that I've seen, it shows a rise in IGF of 30, 40, even 60%. And IGF-1 is something that a lot of guys don't really understand because we're used to steroid use. When you use steroids, you take testosterone, you run a blood work, and testosterone levels go to 3,000-4,000. You're like, wow, I got high testosterone levels. I'm getting stronger. My libido's up. I'm killing it in the gym. But they don't understand IGF-1 is also very, very important. So when you have a boost in IGF-1, there are several benefits. I can go through about 20 benefits, but the main ones are healing. You can actually heal. You're not going to heal from steroids. Steroids won't heal you, but IGF-1, a boost of IGF-1, they can heal bones, they can heal tendons, they can heal ligaments, they can heal muscles from injuries. You'll recover much quicker from your workout. How about old injuries, nagging injuries that you've had for years? It can help with that. Now, with me, I've had some injuries. Trust me. And unfortunately, Nutrobl did not fix my injuries, but it may have helped me recover from those injuries, but it's not going to be a miracle. Like if you tear your rotator cuff or you herniate 3 discs in your back, okay, you can't just take Nutrobl and magically heal that, but it can help you recover, get you on the way to recovery. So in those situations, taking time off from the gym and then taking the Nutrobl while you're off, Rick, that can be a good thing versus some people are like, oh, I want to come take off from the gym to recover an injury and I'm going to run steroids. That doesn't even make any sense. So this is an example of something you can actually take. And I would take it with like N2 Joint RX, and that will help. That will be great synergy. And you can also take it with something like Ostarine, which also helps. And those would combine for some really, really good synergy to help you with those injuries. Also tightening skin. That's another benefit of IGF-1 increase. And then, of course, lean muscle gains. Again, lean muscle gains. I've seen so many guys run steroids, Rick, who don't get lean muscle gains. They get perma-bulked. They gain 15, 20 pounds, and then they can't get rid of it. It's all fat and water, and they have a hard time getting rid of that. And also, fat loss, fat oxidation, it increases that. So you can actually eat more on Nutrobl and still burn fat. I've done it. It really, really does. So it's an amazing compound for sure. Anything else you want to add? I mean, it's a fascinating compound for sure. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I wish I had more to offer, but I'm being honest. I used it for a couple of weeks and just got off of it. I felt how strong it is, how it affected my sleep, my hunger, and started reading up some more of the science on it. And I told myself, I say, hey, a lot of guys are going to try this stuff anyway, no matter what I say. I'm going to give this some more time and see what happens, how guys feel on this stuff. It's already been years. It's already been several years since I tried it, and I've seen nothing but good reports coming out of people using it. So far, I haven't seen much in the way of negative reports, except for that hunger, that kind of sleepiness. And I believe some guys were also reporting a little bit of a vision issue. I don't know if maybe those were people that were getting stuff that was contaminated with S4 maybe. But there was also some sort of a darker kind of night vision issue with it. Am I wrong about that, Steve? Am I remembering the wrong thing? It could have been some source was probably selling a batch contaminated with S4 and guys were getting vision issues off of it too, no?
I've never gotten vision issues from it.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure.
about your eyes adjusting to light. I'll look into it some more. I could be wrong. Or again, like I said, because a lot of this stuff is bathtub, you might hear one or two reports of something weird going on, and sometimes it's just contaminated product that had something else in it that didn't belong. For the most part,
how would you stack it for injury?
Osterin, N2 Joint RX, maybe some Deca testosterone, but pretty much N2 Joint RX, Osterin, and MK-677. That's pretty darn good injury repair protocol. There are peptides as well that we've discussed in previous podcasts, but I think MK-677 is probably one of the best for injuries.
All right, guys. So let's talk about stacking. We went through some healing stacks. You know what? There's Nutrobl. Again, it's not a SARM, but it's sold as a SARM. So a lot of guys like to use it as part of a SARM stack. One of the more popular SARM stack, Nutrobl, cardarine, and anderine. Oh my gosh. Great stack if you want to build some lean muscle and burn fat. Fantastic stack. You can stack it with any SARM. I mean, you can't go wrong. You really, really can't go wrong. If you just want fat loss, how about just cardarine and Nutrobl together? Fantastic. Now, one of the other benefits of Nutrobl is it's not suppressive toward your HPTA, so it's not going to drop your testosterone levels when you're on it. So that's one of the advantages that it has. You can run it in PCT, you can run it off cycle, you can run it on cycle. And really can't go wrong using
different pathway. It doesn't affect different pathway. It doesn't affect reproduction. Doesn't affect the sexual health.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of guys are running it in PCT for that reason. They'll run it in PCT, help them hold their gain. They'll run it in their bridge between cycles, keeps your gains, makes you feel good, helps you recover. So let's get into the side effects, though. Negative side effects. Hunger. Really fucking annoying. Really, really annoying. If you take it in the morning, like an hour later, you're going to be hungry. And, that kind of doesn't fly with me because I'm a time restricted eater. I like to just eat in a small window in the afternoon, evening. So hard to take it, because your appetite's going to go sky high. So I found taking it before bed will actually help with that. So that's a way to kind of combat the side effect of the hunger. Sleep. Oversleeping. If you work a job, you got to get up, get in your car and drive somewhere every morning. You can't be late. You're late, you're going to be stuck in traffic, and you're going to show up in the office an hour late, and everyone's going to think you're a moron. Well, it makes you sleep harder. So keep that in mind. You're not going to be woken up in the morning from your dog or cat waking you up because you're going to be sleeping so damn hard. So that's a disadvantage of it. Rick, what are some of these side effects? How'd you deal with those side effects? And what are some other side effects that you noticed on it?
It's one of the reasons I got off of it at the time. Made me incredibly hungry. And I don't like feeling hungry. I'm actually used to, I've been free from hunger now for ages, decades. So I don't like being hungry. And that's what kind of did it for me. Because I'm a big diet guy. I like the freedom of not feeling hungry. And damn, this thing really made me want to eat. It made me very hungry. Brought me back to the days of like when you have carbohydrates, and a lot of carbohydrates, and then it just makes you hungrier and hungrier. And that was one of the side effects that I didn't like. Also, just what it did to me sleep-wise. Once you took it, man, I mean, after a while, you just felt sleepy. You felt like you were just done. And like you said, you sleep harder. So it's a deeper, just much deeper sleep, harder to get up out of bed from unless you're fully rested. Those two side effects were pretty much the only side effects that I noticed on it. The hunger and the sleepiness were enough to make me think about it, research it more, and think about it twice. And then just the fact that it's so new. So new. I just said, you know what? I'm going to take this bottle and I'm going to save it. I still have the bottle somewhere, and we're not going to use this right now. It's very expensive. I have a bottle I paid a lot of money for. It's very expensive at the time, but again, it's just too new for me. It was just too new. And now it's not. Now that after the podcast, now I'm thinking about it again. I'm researching it again. It might be something I start adding. I told you guys that I had decided that I wouldn't exploit the growth hormone peptide way until I turned 40. I felt as though just a little bit of testosterone, just regular steroids, got me to where I wanted to get to physically and performance wise. And so I didn't see a need for adding growth hormone. But now I'm going to start to. I'm getting older. My skin is aging. My face, everything, you're just aging more at this age. So I'm going to start now researching more and experimenting more with growth hormone pathways and different peptides, SARMs, and growth hormone itself. So I'll definitely add more value to the podcast for you guys as the episodes come by. But that's to bring it back to the original question. Just what I described, man. Sleepy and hungry, which was enough for me to rethink it. I don't like being tired and I don't like being sleepy. So just definitely not what I wanted to, not what I was looking for at the time.
Some of the other side effects are, like Rick said, lethargy. Some guys get affected. I wasn't feeling lethargic at all on it. Someone are different. Rick and I are different. He's the type of guy, he stims himself up. He drinks a lot of coffee. He's kind of like that. And a lot of people are like that. They just have low energy and they just need coffee to stim them up. I'm just high energy. I jump out of bed. And my girlfriend's the opposite. She needs like an hour just to get out of bed. So I just jump out of bed like a missile. I'm out. I don't need coffee. I don't need stims. I don't need shit. So it affected me completely different. So some of you may be more toward, Rick's far end, or some of you would be all the way in my far end. Did not affect me at all. My energy was very strong on it. So it just makes you feel hungry like all day, no matter how much you eat. So you know what? You know, some of you guys who don't have an appetite, you can use that to your advantage if you struggle with an appetite, but eat clean. If you eat clean on this stuff and you're a skinny guy, you have trouble building strength and building size, oh my gosh, this is the stuff for you. This is the stuff that you can take, but eat clean. Don't eat Pop-Tarts and pizza and ice cream on this stuff. Eat good quality, clean food, and you're going to build a lot of muscle on this stuff. So, take advantage of it in that situation. So how long should you run it? How much should you run it for? Now, the bottom line dose for females, if you're a female user, 5 milligrams a day. And then males, the average dose gets to 25 milligrams a day. Some guys run it at 50, but that's a lot. Okay, that's a lot. And then how long can you run it? A lot of guys like to run it. If you really want to run it and get the sweet spot, 8 to 12 weeks. A lot of guys argue, you have to run it for months, but that's just not true here. You can run it for quite a while, but it's not necessary to get a lot of these benefits that I'm talking about. So 8 to 12 weeks and then coming off of it, cycling it like that would be a simple way to run it. I don't see the point in overdoing it. And then one of the other side effects that some guys may have is the carpal tunnel issues, but that's really rare. We don't really see that. And then water retention, but we don't really see that too much compared to just running straight HGH. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up, guys. We covered everything. We covered up everything with it. I would recommend grabbing a couple bottles and running it 25 milligrams a day and see how you like it. And it might be something that you can really use as a tool to better your fitness goals out there. And some of you may run it and be like, you know what, I don't like it. Like what Rick did. He ran it. He didn't like it. He didn't like what it did to his hunger. So he's like, screw it, I'm done with it. And some of you guys are going to run it and you're going to love it. So it really just depends on the situation. So I think it's a really, really good idea to run it if you're the type of person who's worried about losing your gains after cycle. I think it's a really, really good one to run in PCT. All right, Rick. I mean, anything you want to add to this? Would you run it again?
I'm going to. Yeah, I actually have plans of running it again. Now that we did some more of the research on it for this podcast, and I still have the bottle somewhere, man. I'm a bit of a pack rat, save some stuff, so still got the bottle somewhere. Let me check up on it. Let me check up on if it's
hook it up. Hook me up, man. If you got a bottle, hook me up.
And now it's expensive one. I remember when I got it, it was a couple $100 for a bottle.
Yeah,
when it first came out, it's extremely expensive.
Yeah, man, for sure. All right, guys. Well, that does it for this podcast. I think we covered it off. If you have any further questions, hit me up on the forum, Steve SMI. I'm also doing consultations. I'm getting that going again. I wasn't taking people for a while during the COVID, but now I am taking people. So if you want to hear from me and ask me anything you'd like and have a consultation, hit me up, Steve SMI on the forums. And Rick is also on the forums. Rick V is his name. He's on the forums every now and then. I'm on the forums every day. I have no life. So Rick's the guy with the life. He's got kids, a wife, like 3 wives and 5 girlfriends from all over the world. So he's not on the forums as much as me, but I have no life. So I'm on the forums all day. I have nothing better to do.
You guys can come check me out on social. I manage all of the social for Need to Build Muscle. I answer all of your questions and TBM Nutrition. So if you guys want to check me out on social, rickyvrock.com. That's RICKY, V as in victory, ROCK.com. And that'll forward you right to my social. Yeah, man, it was just, I'm on the forums a little bit less now than I used to be, just because we have so many of you guys reaching out on social and I'm entertaining guys there. But if you PM me, send me a private message on the forums, I will get back to you. I always do.
All right, guys. So this was number 344, Nutrobl MK-677. We'll have another compound next week. If you have any special requests, feel free to hit us up. Hit Rick on social media. Hit me up on the forums. We'd love to hear from you. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.
Have a good one, Steve. Have a good one, guys.
Guys, this is the required legal disclaimer. We are only sharing our experience from years of steroid use. We are not doctors, and none of what we say should be regarded as medical advice. Always check with your doctor before taking any drugs or starting any training program. What's going on, everybody? Evolutionary Network podcast coming your way. This is episode 380. Stevesmi here, and Rick. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Steve? What's up, guys? How's everybody doing out there?
Good. So, guys, our even episodes, compound episodes. This time we're going to do one on TB500, which is a peptide, and it's a very interesting one. And I think that it's one of the more popular ones, especially for healing. So we're going to kind of get into it. It's a synthetic form of Thymosin beta-4. And it's specifically designed in our industry, in the fitness industry, to help us with these nagging injuries that we get over time and to help us recover quicker. And as someone who's used it, I can say that it does help with that. So, before we get too much into it, though, I want to bring in Rick because he's our historian here, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the history behind that TB500. So go ahead, Rick. Tell us, everybody.
So TB500 is the synthetic version of Thymosin beta-4, which is a peptide that's naturally produced by your body in the thymus gland in your chest. And thymosins, which are the different peptides and different compounds that are being secreted by this gland, were discovered as far back as the mid-1960s. A dude named Alan Goldstein from the laboratory of Abraham White at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in New York. Dropped all those names there for you. They basically discovered them. Goldstein created another compound, thymosin alpha 1, for the purpose of increasing immune cell activity. and thymosin beta 4 to promote wound repair. So there are different thymosin peptides that are being secreted by the thymus gland. And use of TB500 or the thymosin beta 4 has dated back as far as 1974. A young girl became the first person to receive injections of thymosin because she was diagnosed as not having a functioning thymus gland. Thymosin TB500 has shown to have a lot of the same effects of growth hormone. Increased strength, increased endurance, a lot of different things. So this is the reason why it's been researched. And nowadays, over the last let's say 10 years, it's made a resurgence back. Now it is a research compound. Now it's being prescribed by some hormone replacement therapy clinics and some of these rejuvenation clinics. And it's quite almost miraculous little hormone that we're going to discuss more in depth.
So let's talk a little bit more about TB500, guys. So if you actually do some research on it, you'll see there's not much out there about it, and there's not much usage on it. And one of the reasons for that, a lot of guys haven't really heard of it or tried it, was that for years, Rick and I have been on the forums for a while, but for years it was very hard to find a legitimate peptide source. But now, if you go on Evolutionary, we have at least 2-3 places that actually do source TB500 now, where you can actually find, legit TB500. So now we're actually able to use it. And I've used it several times, and I can definitely tell the difference between the real TB500 and some diluted crap TB500 that other people have used. So, the way TB500 works, it has the ability to upregulate cell bindings and proteins like actin. So the upregulation of the actin allows the TB500 to promote cell migration and proliferation. So this will help you build new blood vessel pathways and also regulate inflammation that has to do with wound healing. So it's a very versatile peptide, and it has a low molecular weight, and it lends to its mobility, ability to travel long distances through our tissues. So when targeting injured areas, TB500 is going to circulate the body and find those injuries around your body and take corrective action. So you'll notice on this stuff all kinds of things. Like you'll even notice you're able to be more mobile in the gym, more flexible. You'll notice less inflammations in your joints and your tendons. Like people who suffer from tendonitis, they notice a difference in stuff. They also notice maybe, some differences with their hair growth on their head. Some of their gray hairs on their head darkening back. So it has some anti-aging properties too. And then one of my things that I notice on the stuff after using it just a week or two, or even just a couple doses of it, you just using 2 milligrams, 4 milligrams, 6 milligrams, 10 milligrams only, getting it into my body over the course of a week and a half, is the endurance difference. Now, those of you who are just weight trainers, you may not notice that significantly, but if you're like me, you're very active, you do a lot of cardio, a lot of outdoor activities. I just took my cat for a walk and I climbed the fucking 40-foot tree with my cat. We do that together. Me and my cat. He's my buddy. He's my climbing buddy. So you climb a 40-foot tree, then you climb back down. That's a lot of endurance that you need. So I notice on TB500, my endurance is a lot better when I'm doing stuff like that. It really turns you into quite a beast, So if you really know your workouts, you weight train, you're a power lifter, you really know your workouts to a T, you'll notice, wow, I can nail an extra rep on this stuff. So also, there's been some studies done which say that TB500 also can heal organs like the heart, and help with ventricular hypertrophy. So, this stuff has other benefits. That probably is why we notice the endurance benefits, because anything that's good for your heart and that benefits your heart is going to help you with endurance. Because your heart rate, it's all about your heart rate, guys. You can strap a heart rate monitor, you get an iWatch or get one of those heart rate straps and strap it to you, and you can start understanding how our heart rate works. Okay. Study your body and see. It's like a car engine. The car engine spins. The faster it spins, the more that engine burns out. So if you can get your heart health better, then it's going to help you across the board, from the gym to cardio to mountain climbing to bicycling, anything. So this stuff is really cool stuff. And I really I like it. And, so, we're going to kind of get into dosages in a bit. You wanted to add something to that, Rick?
Yeah, just a couple of notes I had here for people to give to everybody. So like you were saying, TB500 is the synthetic version of the peptide hormone thymosin beta-4, which is a natural peptide found in the body that is produced by the thymus gland. This is a gland right in your chest. It's almost like between the upper lungs a little bit. The thymus gland is very active when you're young, but it becomes more inactive as you get older. By the time you hit 40, as much as 80% of the gland may be inactive. The thymus gland produces different thymosins, peptide hormones that are there to help your body repair. I've said it on the podcast before. All organisms have a built-in expiration clock. This is why the same animal cells that are in a bird, that are in a human, that are in a turtle look identical under a microscope, but they'll all age at different rates. Birds can live a couple years. Humans can live a few decades. Turtles can live a few hundred years. We're all kind of, I don't know if you want to say designed or evolved, but we're all kind of designed or evolved to die off at some point. And it's just part of evolution. Organisms need to die off to make room for the newer organisms. And so the thymus gland becoming inactive as you get older is just a natural part of evolution, a natural part of us becoming older and getting older, and organisms dying off so the new ones can have a chance at resources, right? So all of your cells in the body have the receptors for the thymosin beta-4 peptide. So once a cell is in need of repair and it receives thymosin beta-4 compound, or in this case TB500, it is going to repair itself. The genetic code that's inside of the nucleus that express the repair of the cell will become activated. Now, TB500 we know works just as well as thymosin beta-4, but they're not identical. Thymosin beta-4 has a 43 amino acid chain. And then over time, scientists experimented with splicing together maybe 17 and 23 of those amino acids, creating only a chain of 40 or different smaller chains. So if you were to really look at it under a microscope, TB500 is not exactly thymosin beta-4. They got small differences in the amounts of amino acid chains, but it still works. Still works just as good, just as great as thymosin beta-4 does. I guess you could say it's like comparing, saying testosterone that your body makes to maybe something like a dianabol or a masteron or another hormone that will still attach to those receptors and create a signal, but it is not a fully identical hormone. It is just close enough to attach there. So that's an important distinction to make as we continue on the podcast. Thymosin beta-4 is the original natural hormone your thymus gland makes. The TB500 is a synthetic version that it's not twin of it. It's a synthetic variation with a little bit of a different amino acid chain sequence than the original.
All right, guys. So everyone wants to know, how do I use this stuff? So basically, when you order it, if you look up some of these sources, I can pull up our source on the forum, for example. One of our sources on the forum, they do sell it, and they sell it in 2 milligram vials, and they sell it in 5 milligram vials. So you're going to get it, and it's going to be in a vial, and it's going to be a powder, like a white powdery stuff. You're going to be like, what the hell is this? It looks like salt. Looks like kind of like salt powder or something. And basically what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to constitute it. I would store the peptides always, all your peptides, even before you constitute it. You should always store them in the refrigerator. That will keep them the maximum shelf life on them. So, but if you end up storing it, at room temperature, it's not the end of the world. It's not a big deal. But if you want to extend the life on it, definitely go with the fridge, especially if you're going to store it for a few months. And then I'd say after 6 months, 7 months, even in the fridge, it's going to lose its potency. So you want to make sure you use it within 6 months or 4 months. After you constitute it, you're going to use backwater or sterile water. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you use. As long as it's either backwater or sterile, you should be good to go. You're going to mix in that very, very carefully, and you're going to go ahead and inject it. Now, because it's only 2 milligrams or 5 milligrams per vial, you're just going to do the whole amount in one shot. So you don't have to worry about storing it. But hypothetically, let's say you were to get like a few vials of 5 milligrams and you wanted to just constitute it all at once, you could, and then just store it in the fridge. And then you want to use it as soon as possible. But in this case, for most of you, you're gonna constitute it, reconstitute it, and mix it, and then you're gonna just inject it anywhere, sub-Q anywhere. You don't have to inject it at the injury because it will travel. Like I told you guys, the way it acts in the body, the pathways, it will travel through your body and it will pick out where injuries are to heal those injuries. So really the easiest place to inject it is just pull up your stomach fat and boom, into your stomach fat with a slim pin. Boom, you're good to go. The entire 2 milligrams or the entire 5 milligrams. And what you could do, you could run, 4 to 8 or 4 to 10 milligrams a week of this stuff. 2 or 3 times, split it up into 2 or 3 doses. So if you get 2 milligrams, for example, I would start out doing 3 times a week. You do 2 milligrams on Monday, 2 milligrams on Wednesday, 2 milligrams on Friday. Or if you get the 5 milligrams, do 5 milligrams on Monday and then 5 milligrams on Thursday or Friday. So twice a week. So that's how I would dose it. And then over time, you would lessen your dosage. So after like a couple months doing it that way, then you can go ahead and lower the dosage to once a week. And then once every 2 weeks, and then once a month, and then so on. So you keep lowering the dosage. So if you follow that protocol, you'll notice this stuff is really expensive. Because if you look up the prices, a vial of this stuff is going to run you anywhere from $30 to $60 for a big 5 milligram. So if you're doing it twice a week, 5 milligrams, it's costing you $60 per vial. That's $120 a week that you're spending on this stuff. So yes, it will get expensive. But you know what? You got to run this stuff at a strong dose to be effective. And you can maybe do it once a week if you do 5 milligrams and then just split your dose. So you would do, 2.5 milligrams on Monday, 2.5 milligrams. You do it that way. And that would cut the price of what you're spending on it in half. So that could work too. But if you really, really, really want to heal your injuries, you're sick of these injuries, you've spent thousands of dollars going to doctors, you don't want to use all these prescription drugs they give you, you don't want to spend money. I mean, if you go to physical therapy, they charge $90 an hour. I mean, it's absurd. If you get an MRI done, they cost you thousands of dollars. So if you really, really want to heal these injuries, guys, it's going to cost you some money. You want to put aside, a few $100 here. And it's going to cost you some cash. But this stuff does work good. Now, in addition to that, the protocol that I recommend, not just using TB500, you've got to also add in BPC 157. And BPC 157 is another peptide. It's a healing peptide. And it's also, quite pricey as well. And with the BPC is you want to inject that BPC into the injury. So you want to say that your elbow hurts, for example, or your knee hurts or something, you've got to inject it as close to that injury as possible with the BPC. So the TB500, anywhere in your body, but the BPC, you want to really inject it. So my recommendation is stacking the BPC with it. And we'll get into BPC maybe in another podcast. So maybe the next podcast we do a compound episode, we'll talk about BPC. But that is really what I recommend to heal injuries. And of course, you want to run your N2 Joint RX. It's a supplement that contains different supplements as well. Rick, you can kind of get into that. And then the last advice is you really have to ease off on whatever has caused these injuries. Because if you spend all this money on these peptides and then you keep hammering away at what made this injury happen in the first place, guess what? it's just going to come back. It's going to become a chronic injury. So you really have to ease up on whatever you're doing to cause these injuries. Very, very important that you take some rest and let the body repair. If you had done that correctly in the first place, you wouldn't have gotten to the point where you start getting these chronic nagging injuries.
Yeah, very important what Steve just mentioned. You have to take, if you're trying to repair muscle injury, you have to have proper proteins, essential amino acids in your system, in your diet. If you're repairing bone, tendons, ligaments, joints, skin, you have to have the proper nutrition, the proper building blocks for those things. This is the reason he mentioned Into Joint RX. Into Joint RX has vitamins, minerals to cover any deficiencies, and also has the building blocks that your body uses to actually build some of these white tissues, bone, tendons, ligaments, cartilage, all these things. You need the building blocks for them. At their best, steroids or these peptides like TB500, they will go to the cell. They will tell the cell to repair, to get stronger in the case of steroids. But they're just there to send a signal to the nucleus of the cell for gene expression. They're not there to build the cell up. Testosterone, when it hits your muscle cell, it doesn't become part of the cell now and make it stronger that way. No, it just gets there, signals for the nucleus of the cell to express the genes to build that muscle up thicker. Same thing with thymosin beta 4. It gets to the cell and it just signals, knocks on the door, sends a signal straight to the nucleus. The nucleus expresses the genes that are going to repair the cell. But you still need the amino acids, the minerals. You still need all of those things floating in your system in order for your cells to actually repair. So yeah, taking Into Joint RX along with your TB500 is going to make sure that you have the substrate there, you have the building blocks there flowing through your system as the TB500 is making your cells repair. It's giving your cells a signal to repair. You want to make sure the building blocks are there. So that's very important. And just a little word on dosing. I did a little bit of research on some of the dosing protocols people are using. And it seems that if you use a little too much TB500, more than you need, your results just aren't as good as if you use the smaller, the medium amounts. It won't hurt you, meaning you could use quite a bit of TB500 and you won't get into the realm of being in danger from cancer or other problems, the way you tests have shown with certain SARMs and certain other compounds. But taking too much, then it seems as though your body won't respond to it as well, and you won't get a full healing effect. So you don't need to do too much with it. And even if you did, you're not going to get into cancer danger zones or anything like that. At least the studies and the literature that is out there about it now seem to point in that direction. What do you think, Steve?
From what I've read about TB500, they did think that it may have contributed to cancer. But the reason for that, if you actually look into those studies, is not because what you think. It's actually because what ends up happening was the main action of the TB500 was to produce new white blood cells. So what they noticed is its presence in the affected areas that had cancer in the people's bodies. It was not the TB500 causing that cancer, but it was just that the TB500 caused those white blood cells to show up in the body where the cancer lived. And that's because it was helping the body mount an immune system response. So when they started looking more into it, they actually concluded that TB500 actually helps with cancer. It doesn't contribute to cancer. So that's good news. Another thing too is like I said at the beginning, a lot of people have not used TB500. So when you see that, these gurus that you see on forums or they write these articles, and they won't tell you this. They won't say, "Yeah, I've never used it." I mean, I've used it myself 3-4 times, and I'm probably one of the more experienced people to have used it, and I've only used it 3-4 times. So a lot of these people they'll use it and it's really something else, and we see that a lot. So they'll say things like, "Oh, it gave me a head rush," or "Oh, it gave me lethargy," or something like that, or "It boosted my hunger," or any of this stuff. And it's like, dude, like if you had experience using peptides and you had experience using a lot of these compounds, you would know that if you take something like if you inject a peptide and you get hunger, you didn't inject TB500. You were injecting some type of GHRP or a GHRH. You know what I'm saying? So that's just a lack of experience by these guys. And it's just so funny, like reading when I see people, like we had a guy on the forum say, "Oh, I took SR 9009 and I couldn't sleep all night." I'm like, dude, you didn't take SR 9009. You were taking something else, probably clenbuterol or T3, and that was affecting your sleep. It had nothing to do with each other. So this is why you get these weird comments like on forums or on articles and stuff from guys. They just don't have the experience with enough compounds to really understand what they're taking. They don't know their bodies well enough. So we're doing this podcast, Rick and I, to help educate you on these compounds and to lead you in the right direction so you don't end up buying fake peptides and you don't end up like these guys who take these peptides and get these weird side effects because they weren't even using what they thought they were using. So yeah, that's why we're doing these podcasts, guys, to help educate you. And we're giving you the facts based on experience, not just based on what we read on some forum somewhere. So yeah, guys, definitely, if you have any questions about this stuff, definitely hit me up on the forum, Steve SMI. But yeah, this stuff at the end of the day, guys, I can tell you with me, stacking it with BP, when I ran it by itself, I definitely noticed a difference with endurance. My endurance was better. My recovery was better. And then when I would stack it with BPC, I would definitely notice a healing of injuries. It really, really made a difference with me. So if you want to spend that kind of money, on healing these injuries versus versus going to a massage therapist or physical therapist or getting a bunch of, things done from a doctor, an MRI, and all this stuff that they want you to do where you're spending tens of thousands of dollars, it makes more sense just to spend a few hundred and see, how these peptides can work with you. And that would be a thing for you to do. So, this is a way, guys. This is a different way everyone wants to know what they can take, Rick. Everyone wants to know, what can I take to do this? What can I take to do that? But TB500 could be something for you to take that can help you with endurance, with your energy levels, with injuries, with joints, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's worth a shot. It's definitely worth a shot. I tried it. It's just a matter of, the money issue. For me, I would love to use this stuff more, but it's an economic thing. The stuff is very expensive. So, Rick, I'll let you finish.
One word on injuries. I said it before. It's just a good time to repeat it. If you got something that needs to be set back into place, if you have something that needs a physical doctor, specialist to come in there and readjust things, there are different parts of your body, from your feet to your hands to your neck, that sometimes just need to be adjusted properly. Then after everything is in its place, once all the tendons are running down the right lanes, once the bones and everything is set properly, then something like TB500 will help to really heal all those tissues around it and make it tight. But, if you have something that needs specialist care to be set back into place, to be cut open, restitched, and, oh man, I've seen that video of that guy with pec tear. You get a muscle tear and things need to be attached back to the bone and things like that, then it won't do anything to repair that. You've got to go under the knife. You've got to have stuff sewn back together. And once everything is in the right place where it needs to be, then the TB500, Osterin, all of these other healing compounds will help that injury and everything there heal properly. But if you need something reset back into place, if you need something stitched back into place, you got to go to have a human physically do that first before you stack these compounds on there. And that's something really, really important to know.
Yeah. So, that pretty much sums it up. So, Rick, tell us a little bit about stacking TB500, BPC, and what else you would stack with it. Give us an example of you, because you've been going through an overuse injury. You're looking at all that, what's it called? The Only Porn website? What's it called? Only Twitter? Whatever. You have an overuse injury to your elbow.
TB500, BPC, Osterin, and N2 Joint RX. So N2 Joint RX, my product from our website, you go to N2 Joint, RX.com. It'll shoot you right to a place where you can buy it. Nice, big, heavy bottle. You get 5 big tablets per day in the product. And it has really the substrate. It has the building blocks that you need for all of that connective tissue. It's even got coral calcium, glucosamine, chondroitin. I mean, it's got what you need. And then you use, obviously, the peptides and the SARM, the Osterin, to just help your cells all over your body get that right signal to actually begin repairs. And then the N2 Joint RX provides the building blocks to repair with. What you're really kind of doing, really, if you think about it honestly, you're basically fighting age in a way, because you're putting into your body hormones and compounds that are no longer there in high concentrations because you're getting older, to actually tell your cells to heal injuries at a rate that maybe you would have as a really, really young man. You'd have healed these injuries at that rate. But since you're getting older, and we all have a built-in timer for when things start to go bad, then you are actually that thymus gland that's no longer producing high amounts of thymosin peptides. You're just adding the thymosin peptides. Fuck the gland, right? And that's basically what we're doing with some of these peptides and SARMs, really, is adding in way more, even more than your body could make when you were a young man, really healthy, of these compounds that are signaling the cells to repair well beyond the years that evolution or our maker, whatever you believe in out there, destined for us to actually to for the cells to repair. So it's a great compound. As far as me, I was going to use it. I might still, but I had this tennis elbow situation, lasted about 5 months. I consulted a lot of smart people on what to do, and I finally figured it out. It was a tendonitis, a tendon that runs all the way from the back of your shoulder down to through your tricep. That tendon got really tight, got really bothered there, and once that tendon started to get tighter and tighter, and I didn't take care of it, I didn't get it massaged, I couldn't even tell it was doing anything. Then it manifested as pain right at the elbow, all the way down to my wrist. I mean, I couldn't even hold a big mug of water in my hand about 3 months ago. And it really wasn't an overuse injury in my case. I changed after so many years. I've been lifting weights since I was 13, now 40. I don't know, about a year and a half ago, I decided to change the way that I hold the bar when I bench press. I always benched with my elbows tucked in, the way somebody going to a benching competition would, because that's the guy who taught me how to bench, competed in powerlifting and benching competitions. So he just taught me from the very start to tuck my elbows in. And while that gives me a nice, strong bench, it doesn't really build up the chest the way you want it for bodybuilding. So I don't know, after about a year and change ago, I started flaring my elbows out like a bodybuilder. And I think that's what started doing it. That's what started the injury. Because I do remember a couple of times after getting off the bench, feeling my upper back a little bit tight. And I did some stretching, obviously. Started stretching and thought that was the issue. But I think I think that's what started setting off the problem. And then it just became just full blown tendonitis, tennis elbow. And the way it kind of finally got fixed is I finally hit upon a old man. He's like in his 70s, really knows his shit. And he touched around and he said, your problem is right here at the tricep. And he massaged the tricep, applied hot cream on it, went through about 4 different sessions with him, and my arm started to feel better. And then my gym put the heavy bag back out, and I started hitting the heavy bag again. And just the stretching motion from throwing my right hand, which is where the injury was, throwing my right hand out there, it started to loosen up all those tendons, loosen up everything back there. And I'd say I'm about 95% recovered now from my tennis elbow injury. And I am going to obviously use TB500 here in the near future just to really kind of shore things up and to make sure that now that I'm healed from this injury, that it'll continue to stay well. But I know I got to go back to my elbows tucked in benching technique and really never stop hitting the heavy bag. That used to be my warm-ups, hitting the heavy bag. And my gym changed things around because of COVID. They shut the showers down, shut off the area where you can go hit the bag, and just not stretching my arms out violently the way you do when you're sitting there hitting the bag really contributed to the arm getting tighter and tighter over time, and more atrophied, more tendonitis. It's just not, it contributed to a problem, is cascading effect. So I'm feeling much better now, though, thank God. And all it took was just figuring out the problem was not the elbow, because I had put CBD cream on my elbow, tried DECA run, did some exercises that a physical therapist suggested with a hard rubber ball right on the area on the elbow that hurts, and stretching the wrist. And also went to a kinesiologist, tugged on my arm pretty hard, and just tried a bunch of different things. And I was just concentrating on the elbow. The problem was way further up the line, was the tricep the whole time. And I didn't feel anything wrong with the tricep. And, it wasn't until I started addressing the tricep, massaging the tricep, applying cream to the tricep, putting a massage gun on the tricep, that things loosened up and everything felt way better. And that's just something I went through. So hopefully can help anybody out there, because tennis elbow, it can become very chronic, where you just keep having problems with it. Buddy of mine's told me he had this chronic tennis elbow situation for almost 10 years. 10 fucking years he lived with just a constant pain in his arm. Just something hopefully will help guys out there.
All right, guys. So hope you guys learned a lot from this podcast. For Stevesmi and the Rickster, we'll talk to you guys next one. Have a good one.
Have a good one, Steve. Have a good one, guys.
This is the required legal disclaimer. We are only sharing our experience from years of steroid use. We are not doctors, and none of what we say should be regarded as medical advice. Always check with your doctor before taking any drugs or starting any training program.